Hey y'all, yesterday was a cardio day for me. In fact, it was a running day and I ran 8 miles on the Mount Vernon Trail. Well, actually, I started on the Tanger Miles Trail by the MGM, and then I went over the Woodrow Wilson Bridge Trail, which connects onto the Mount Vernon Trail. I took lots of pictures along the way because I wanted to share my run with you, and I thought that I could make a really fun challenge for you if you are not in a place where you can get outdoors and get some fresh air, walk or run. So I challenge you to step in place, see how many steps you can get while you watch my video of my running recap. So let's get started. So I'm just going to start my Fitbit to see how many steps I can get in while I narrate my running recap of my yesterday's run for you guys. So, done. Let's get started. You can jog like me, or you can step in place. So here's a map of where I traveled from Maryland to Virginia, DC, and back to Maryland. Here's another picture looking out from the Maryland side into Virginia. On the Maryland side, I parked at the Metro lot, which was open. I usually park at the Tanger Outlets lot, but it happened to be closed. Both lots are free to park. I started my Fitbit tracker and other apps at the National Harbor sign across the street from parking. So the journey starts here. In total, it was an 8-mile run, and this is what it looks like at the top of the hill. You'll see I was coming down the path towards the Potomac. The MGM is on my right side. As I continue down the trail, there's a little park on the left-hand side. The scene is very beautiful on this trail. You're gonna love it. And there's lots of park police, so I felt very safe and comfortable on this trail. This is one of my favorite trails. There are emergency stations on the trail as well, so I felt completely safe here. The trail continues on down towards the Potomac River. It will cross under a few bridges and under major highways as well. But the scene is very serene and it's not too loud. Here is one of the major highways that the trail runs next to. Looking out from this view, you can see the National Harbor far off, as well as the Ferris wheel to the right-hand side. And we are running or walking towards the bridge that's really far off in this photo, but we're going to get there. At this point, I think I'm about a mile and a half in on the trail. That's the National Harbor. The trail winds up to the bridge because we're going to be crossing over the Potomac, so it's kind of a steep hill. So you can see I'm kind of going up around the trail right now, and you can see the bridge on the right side of this image. Going up, winding around the trail, you can see the National Harbor, and that's actually an Air Force One replica. And here's a cool marker for the Woodrow Wilson Bridge. That's the guy on the dime, right? Woodrow Wilson. And at the center, at the top of the bridge, there's a really cool garden. So you'll pass through the garden as I did. It's still winding around. There's lots of places to sit and rest if you want to, but I did not. And here's that Woodrow Wilson signage again, coming around, winding around down the bridge. And the trail continues. Continuing on the trail, I always like to look back sometimes. So that's looking to Maryland. And looking off to the right, you can see that is actually partly Bowling Air Force Base. And looking over here, you can actually see this is Old Town. This is Old Town, Virginia. And along the way on the bridge, there are lots of cool lookout points that you can use. And looking over the bridge, there's still lots of cool views out there. I don't know if you can see the small couple having breakfast. And here's another view at the top of the bridge. This is the Virginia side now. And this is the parking lot under the bridge. This is at Jones Point Park. So check out Jones Point Park. At the end of the bridge, there's a compass that tells you which way to go. I went the Old Town route because I like to run through the neighborhood of Old Town itself, but I do still stay on the water. And I always like to look back and see where I came from. So this is looking out from Virginia onto the Maryland side. And I don't know if you can see on the left, that's the MGM. So when I ran through Old Town, I like to go under this little tunnel, and I have no idea what the name of it is, but it's right beside Safeway. I think it might be Wilkins or Wilkes. I think that's the name of it, but it's right by the Safeway. So from there, I circle back over the bridge again, and I take the trail to the bridge now. This is still on the Virginia side. And getting a little bit closer towards the bridge. This is Jones Point Park itself. Underneath the bridge, the park is really huge, and there's a parking area under here. You're really, really close to the water. Can't get any closer to this. There are actually, I think, some fishermen on the pier to the right. If you can see, to the left is the National Harbor. And I love this part here. There are some cool little markers for Maryland, DC, and Virginia. And these markers mark, no pun intended, the official boundary lines for Maryland, the boundary line for Virginia, and the boundary lines for DC. So that's really cool to me to see the official boundary lines for the state and the district, and I feel like, hey, I'm in Maryland, hey, I'm in Virginia, hey, I'm in DC. So cool to literally step over the boundary lines like that. So continuing on through the park, this is a little lighthouse still at Jones Point Park. This is the old lighthouse at Jones Point. This is just another picture of the old lighthouse, and there was one runner that I passed to the left, if you can see her. She's to the left of the lighthouse. And this is the Woodrow Wilson Bridge itself, and as you can see, the park is underneath the bridge. And so when you come up from the side of the bridge from the park, you'll see this compass here, and it tells you which way to go. I turn right to go over the bridge back towards the Maryland side, and it's super early in the morning, so you can see the sun is coming up. And here are those gorgeous views. I think I turned and took a snapshot backwards. I think that is the memorial for the Masons in that last picture. Here's the parking lot again, and it's super early, so no one's there. And looking out to the left, DC is towards the left. Virginia is across the river to the right a little bit. Here is
part of the park. You may be able to see those folks having breakfast on the greenery down low. And here's that picture again where you can kind of look over and do some sightseeing if you want, but again, I did not. Here is another view of Old Town, and looking down the river is DC straight ahead. And so I showed this picture before. It wasn't Bowling Air Force Base, it's the Naval Base. Um, so I'm continuing over the bridge. You can see the MGM on the left a little bit as the sun comes up, and still continuing over the bridge. The bridge itself is a long piece of my run, and here's the Woodrow Wilson signage again. And circling over the top of the bridge where that park is. I think the bridge itself might be about 2.5 miles itself, just that piece there. I'm still on top of the bridge here. This is another view of the park, the actual flower garden over the park, and here's another view of that Woodrow Wilson signage. Again, returning to Maryland from Virginia on the way home, and looking out, you can see the National Harbor, the Gaylord, the plane to the right. That is the replica of Air Force One, the president's plane. And you can see how high I was if you look up to the left, how the bridge kind of winds around. And coming down from the bridge, looking back, you can see Virginia on the other side. And so here we're looking towards Maryland because you can see the MGM really far off, and there are some other walkers. I did pass a few folks along the way, so that was really cool. Looking across the water, you can see the National Harbor and the Ferris wheel again. And this is the same trail next to the highway, and it's not very loud. It's very peaceful. And that's the picture again of the National Harbor. I love running alongside the water because it's very serene to me, very relaxing. And you can see the Woodrow Wilson far off, and that's where we came from. This was an 8-mile journey. And the trail continues. To the left is the little bit of the MGM. So going back towards the MGM, and now you can really see it now as I'm coming back towards the parking lot that I parked at. This is the MGM. Hey, look, Alicia Keys is going to be performing. Maybe, maybe not, because the MGM is closed right now. And so I continue up the trail, and you see the nice greenery here. Looking back, you still see the Ferris wheel where the National Harbor is. Continuing up, though, this hill is super steep. I'm not kidding. It's very tiring, but I do it. Very tiring. It's easy to run down, but it is so tough coming back, especially from a long run. I always look for the lion on the left side next to the MGM, and I tell myself, I'm almost done. I just have to get to the top of the hill. And so this, I have no idea what this sculpture is, but it's across from the MGM. It just looks like slabs of rock to me, but I have no idea what it is. And there it is again. It's on the left side. So now the MGM is on the right. And I always like to look back to see where I came from because I am done. That's what I say every time I see that sign. So here's a little historical quiz for you. Check out the Addison family. Look that up on Google. I thought it was really interesting to read about the history of the area, not only Maryland, but DC as well, the Addison family. Look up the Addison family. And that's it, y'all. Thanks so much for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe to my channel if you enjoyed this. And don't forget to leave in the comments how many steps you got.